What is going on, everybody? Non here, and it's time for this week's distribution update for Pokemon Magic, and we'll go through some other uh, TCGs. So let us start with Flesh and Blood. We'll go right down the list. So, um, is it Super Slam comes out in 2 weeks and actually releases the same day as Spider-Man and Mega Evolutions 1. God bless. Looks like the boxes are kind of performing so-so. The sell-through is kind of what we would expect, a little bit on the light side. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, not much else to talk about. Godzilla, the second set comes out in October. I did manage to get a couple straggler cases of the first Godzilla versus Godzilla. And again, there hasn't been a whole lot of publicity on the game, but the boxes are actually holding up quite well. So, I'm dabbling in it in small chunks just for fun. Moving on, Gundam. So Gundam, we did get allocations for the STO5, the Iron Bloom starter display. It looks like a lot of these starters have unique cards, and they have some value to them, which is pretty interesting. That one comes out in a couple weeks, and then we have the BPO2. I think it's actually GDO2 for Gundam, but it is dual impact coming out the 24th of October, which is going to be interesting. Have not heard much about reprints of the first set as of yet. I would imagine we're probably not going to get a whole heck of a lot. We did get a second wave, but it is starting to dry up pretty substantially. So we'll see what happens here. Seems like there's pretty good uptake on the game. There's a good amount of interest. So look, all signs are positive here. One Piece, really not a whole heck of a lot to talk about there. We do have the OP13 set coming out. I think it's October. I'm not exactly sure. Last set, OP12 was August, I believe. So October makes sense. It does look like there is a Luffy chase card in 13, so it should be a banger. But again, we'll see. One of the things I believe I mentioned last week was, in meeting with Bandai, one of the things that they just push again and again and again is organized play, log all of your events, and it will get you more products. So, so far that model has worked for those guys. We'll see. It looks like Riftbound is taking the same approach with the organized play, and we'll go to this one since I mentioned this. We did get our allocation from our organized play distributor. It does look like it's very, very similar to the first set of Gundam. I would imagine the demand for this is a little bit higher than that. Have not heard anything from any of my ancillary distributors yet. I know there was some discussion as to whether this was going to go the route of Gundam, if you will, or Riftbound was going to go the route of Gundam, where you could only get product from the distributor that you name for organized play, or not. I believe most distributors are leaning toward not, but I don't know. Hopefully, I know something this week, but we'll keep you posted on that. So let's see. What else are we going to talk about? Sorcery. Let's talk about their Gothic release for 2025. Oh, wait, nobody knows anything about it, and it's almost October, so let's just assume that Dead Set is dead. It's most certainly not going to come on time, and nobody knows anything about it, so that's great fun. Moving to Weiss. Now, Azure Lane. Azure Lane has been allocated by some of the distributors. To my knowledge, it is not being allocated by the largest Bushi distributor in the US, but the four majors, which is not the former, if you will. They have been allocating to some extent. I think it's because a lot of stores, big stores, didn't order it on time. So that set comes out the 17th of October. And for those of you who haven't paid attention, we had the second wave of, I shouldn't say the second wave, it was actually a confirmed reprint because the text on the promo cards was different. The pack printing was different for the second wave. However, even though it was dumped on the market, the boxes have already recovered to about $55 a box. Distro price was anywhere between $37.50 and $42 for that set. Now, these sets are going to be a little bit higher because there is some tariff priced into this. However, it does look like Nikki's going to be back to somewhere around $60 within the next week or two. Now, with Azure Lane, there's a lot of product. There's probably more product coming to market from what I have gathered than there was for both waves of Nikki combined. So we'll see if this gets smashed or if the sellers draw a line and say, hey, this is the price. The running joke is, Weiss sellers generally, that it's either big stores that know what they're doing or it's backpack sellers that, if they make a nickel, they're happy. So we'll see what the backpack sellers do, if you will. Frieren, again, I've spoken about this a couple times. This set was underordered again. I don't really care what anybody says. The reprint, which is the second printing, which is going to be silver, it looks like the orders across the board were about 15% of what they were for Nikki. And the second season of the anime is coming out in January of 2026, so it's going to be an absolute home run. So again, underordered. I think a lot of folks don't deal in Weiss, and the ones who do don't pay a whole lot of attention to the IP. I have some friends that pay attention to this stuff, and they give me some tips and they educate me on the anime world, which is not my world. But if you can get it, you should probably get it. So moving to Magic the Gathering. So Spider-Man has taken a giant shit, and it's been flushed, and it started to come back. Obviously, the expectation was in a Universes Beyond set was they would have serialized cards because the entire market doesn't trust WotC. They think they're going to reprint collector boxes, which they have in the past. Kamigawa, Modern Horizons 2, and Dominaria Remastered, I think, are the confirmed ones where I've seen, and I was looking for the picture. I want to do a video on this and I couldn't find them, but I've seen different print configurations of the cases and different dates, but the world doesn't trust them. And the only reason why WotC would go to not having serialized cards in boxes is if they want the flexibility to be able to print and print and print. That brings me to, and look, I think Spider-Man's going to be fine. There's enough demand, and the sell-through has gone absolutely nuts in the last couple days because the price has come down. But that brings me to Avatar, and Avatar has me concerned. So I don't think there's any chance they have serialized cards in Avatar as well. My bigger concern is the IP is weak. And by weak, I mean narrow. So I was doing some research this weekend on large IPs, and you could see Final Fantasy, you could see Spider-Man, you could see Lord of the Rings. Avatar is a gnat on the ass of all of those intellectual properties. My concern with Avatar is the IP will not carry the set. So the set is going to have to stand on its own. They also have a ton of miscellaneous SKUs, which is going to dilute the funds flow into the set. So if there's no collectability, meaning there's no serialized cards, and yes, serialized cards equals collectability because people have the confidence that these guys are not going to print it into the ground, which they will because they're stupid. The set's going to have to stand on its own or it's going to be a bloodbath. Spider-Man was not a great set. The cards are weak. There's no serialized cards, but there's enough interest in the IP of Spider-Man to carry the set. The print run of Last Airbender is greater than Spider-Man. And I will reiterate, if the set does not stand on its own, the IP will not carry it. It is not broad enough to carry it. I know I'm going to get some folks that are like, I love Avatar. Avatar is a Nickelodeon IP. The reason why they have access to Avatar is WotC signed a licensing agreement. That's why they have access to SpongeBob for the SpongeBob Secret Lair. Um, but there's no IP, as far as I know, that Nickelodeon knows, and I don't know if it goes to Viacom and the parent, or if it's just Nickelodeon itself. There's really no IP there that's massive, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Avatar scares the shit out of me. And then it brings us to Lorwyn. Orders are due in a couple days for Lorwyn. I think by the 24th or the 26th, they have to give us our will not be less than number, which I'm still trying to figure out the logic for that, other than everybody in distro can just give us a number, and if more comes in, they just sell it out the back door, or they sell it to their larger accounts, or the things that or they sell it after the fact for an increased price. Which, by the way, that's not a knock on them. That's just a fact of life in the world that we live in. But if Lauren doesn't have serialized cards and Avatar is a disaster, we're probably going to go back into a bear market in Magic. Now, every time it looks like they're going to fuck things up, they tend to turn it around. There is still time for them to insert a serialized card in Lorwyn. And again, my guess, from everything I can tell, so the pre-constructed decks, my understanding is there are 8 different tribes of different animals. So I'm guessing they're going to try to do a Bloomborough 2.0. That could go one of two ways. It could go tremendously good, and it could go tremendously bad. So we'll see. Still have not heard anything on the holiday set from Final Fantasy. I would imagine we're going to hear something soon. The one thing I do want to mention is, for those of you who don't know, Ultimate Guard has licensing agreements with a lot of the IPs that Wizards of the Coast put out. I believe they have spoiled a couple of them in the past, such as Spider-Man and Avatar. They have just closed their orders for Harry Potter. Now, we know in Q2 of 2026, it looks like it's confirmed in a Return to Strixhaven set. If those of you who may recall, the initial Strixhaven set was supposed to be a Harry Potter set. Potentially, the licensing did not get completed in time. And I wonder if Harry Potter is a Paramount IP or not. Or if it's just owned by Harry Potter. I don't even know. Like Lord of the Rings is owned by, I believe it's the estate of, is he dead? I don't know. Either way, it's owned by the dude, or the dude's family or something. Totally forgot where I was going with that. But it looks like Harry Potter could potentially be the Q2 set. And remember, Hasbro's a public company. They have a massive, massive comp in Q2 of 2026 because they're going to be compared to the Final Fantasy release for 2025, which was the biggest set in the history of the game. So that would make sense. Now, I will mention that the Ultimate Guard products with Harry Potter branding comes out in October of 2025. So while the dates don't necessarily match up with the release of the cards, they could potentially match up with the solicitation of the next Universes Beyond set, because as we've seen with Final Fantasy and then pushed even further with Spider-Man and Avatar, the Avatar initial orders were 5 months ahead of time. So if we look at October, we go 5 months, so November, December, January, February. You're in the March set, April set. You're basically in that Tarkir late Q2, late Q1, early Q2 timeframe. It's plausible. The time frame doesn't match perfectly, but I did want to put that out there because that was one of the rumors that was swirling around a couple weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I really have a hard time believing that Lorwyn they don't remove their head from their two hole, if you will, and re-add a serialized card into the set, because they're going to take a beating here. So, moving on to the Pokemans. And I did a separate video just on print runs here. So, in Mega Evolutions 1, the pre-release was yesterday. Apparently, some folks didn't know that, but it was yesterday. So that is going to come out. It looks like everything's okay there. We're still looking at 60-40 initial release, and then 3 weeks after the fact, so call it the first week of October, second week of October. We have the Trainer Toolkit. which is 4 packs. I thought it was 5. I think it's only 4. The Gengar deck, which is, these are going to be hot, and they're pretty heavily allocated because there's not a huge population of these. Because the Marnie's Morpeko promo is like $50 now or $40. It's absolutely through the roof. Mewtwo battle decks, not super heavily allocated. But then we have the Mega Lucario EX collection. We have the Latias and the Salamence and Reshiram, the 5x5, so the 10-pack box, one of the other ones. Those are all coming out in October, November. It looks like those are all about similar print runs, and there's a lot of them coming out. One of the things I was thinking about over the weekend is, most of you guys know, the way that the actual sets are set up for Pokemon. They want collectability. They also want access to cards for playability. So you have the chase cards, but you also have the exact same functional card that is a very easy to get, low value, low cost card for people who want to play the game. So I was thinking about the change in strategy on print runs. So Pokemon has gone from just dumping booster boxes and ETBs of the market all the time, smashing the market in Sword and Shield, which is something they haven't done in Scarlet and Violet. And it seems like they've really gone to, now they've obviously reprinted Twilight Masquerade and Scarlet and Violet. We actually got our first orders for that finally. So those are coming this week, ETBs, if you will. But we haven't seen a whole lot of booster boxes. We've seen reprints of Surging Sparks. We did get some Twilight, but I believe those were from the original printing. I don't know that those were reprints. But we haven't seen booster boxes. We've seen some booster bundles, but those have slowed down outside of some Surging Sparks, which was a massive print run, some Twilight Masquerade, and a ton of Prismatic Evolutions. But we've seen this migration to this 10x10. Or I'm sorry, this 5x5 10-pack EX box, and they're all over the place, and it's a mix of 5 packs of one set and 5 packs of the other. The Salamence Reshiram is 5 Surging Sparks and 5 Destined Rivals. So I wonder if they realize that printing booster boxes into this market, it's a fool's errand. All you're going to do is you're going to run into a brick wall. The price is going to stay where it is. And, folks can say that they don't want to see distribution get enriched and this and that. I'm not sure I believe that is a direct reasoning on any of this. It may be secondary or tertiary. But what I do believe is if they look at the individual pack as the item that they want to get down and get affordable into the hands of consumers, the easiest way to do that is to put it in a product that people don't necessarily want a collector value, which are these giant EX boxes. And they kind of started it with the Sea and Sky, and obviously that's not the first EX box. They've been around forever, but that's been the first massive lot of packs. We saw it with Blooming Waters. So it almost seems to me like instead of going up against an unstoppable force, which is just the appetite for booster boxes and ETBs as well, they're putting these EX boxes in an effort to get cheap packs in the hands of people who want to get cheap packs, and the booster boxes and the ETBs will run where they may. So it's going to be interesting, and quite honestly, I think it's actually a reasonably good strategy. And I would love if they dump booster boxes and we get another bite at the apple from distro. But from a functional and an availability perspective, getting the individual loose packs out there, it makes sense. Now, they're obviously not going to get in the hands of, some random parent who just walks into a store and is looking for this stuff. I mean, that's a little far-fetched right now, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get to that point in 2 months or 3 months. And if they keep pushing these out and pushing them through the distribution chains for folks that are going to consume the product, as opposed to buy it in mass and then stick it on a pallet somewhere and wait for it to appreciate in price. So that was a little bit of light bulb going off, which is it's a smart idea. But I also think it's going to turbocharge the value of booster boxes, and I'm not sure what we're seeing now just doesn't become the norm. So moving to Mega 2. I did a video on this. It looks like the booster box supply is about the same, if not a little bit less than Mega 1. Now the booster bundles and ETBs appear to be more. I should get another couple data points this week on that. And I know there's one or two people who just randomly said that they disagree in comments on my video, but it looked like they were from other countries, so it doesn't mean shit. With no support. But I mean, if you're seeing something different than I am, by all means, please comment. Would love to see. You know, this is there's no pride in ownership. This is just about getting it right for the best information for everybody. The Mega Charizard EX Ultra Premium Collection. There are going to be a lot of these. Now they're going to be expensive because people are going to want them, and they should be expensive because yeah, it's an absolute banger of a set. Um, you can click on it. You can see the packs. It's 4 Mega 2, 4 Mega 1, 4 Destin, 4 Journey, and 2 Surging Sparks. And you also have the 2 promos. So you have the Charizard and the Oga something or other. I always forget the name, and quite honestly, I don't care. You guys can look it up if you like. Moving on, this is where it gets super interesting. Oh, by the way, with Mega 2, it's going to be 2 waves, 50% wave 1, 50% wave 2, 3 weeks later. That's on every single SKU and every single EX box, Pokeball, Tint, Fall Collector chest through the end of the year. So they are printing at full capacity and they are behind. Or they are not behind and their logistics are behind, shipping out to distribution, which is possible. You know, quite honestly, we just don't know. So moving on, last year, everything came out before Thanksgiving. Pokemon shut down. This year, we have the second wave of all of these items in Mega 2, but we also have the Mega Venusaur EX, which is an 8-pack collection, which is a little unique. I'm kind of shocked it wasn't 10, but it does look like this is a good mix of packs. And then the Mega Kangaskhan, which is another 4. This is the same as your Mega Latios. Pokeball tints, which we don't know what's in them. There's 3 packs per, and the full collector's chest. But all of these, again, seem to have about the same amount of supply as the other EX boxes. And for those of you who don't know, we are, or if you haven't seen, we're getting a lot of these. You know, this is one of the items. I got 100% of my allocation of what I asked for the first time in forever, and I was a little mad at myself that I didn't ask for more, but it kind of caught me off guard with how much of the product is really out there. So this looks like 3 Destined, 2 Mega, and 3 Journey together for the Mega Venusaur. And the one thing I do want to mention is, and I mentioned this in my video, I think yesterday, we did get a bunch of Journey Together sleeved cases, so the 144 sleeve packed in case forms. I'm guessing that MJ and Excel through big box stores, they couldn't sell through the sleeve boosters for Journey Together. So they all came back through distribution and they got sent out through the normal channels, which quite honestly is awesome. So hopefully they continue to do that. But anyway, guys, that's what we have for distribution. Any questions on any other games, feel free to post in the comments. I'll respond if I can get you guys an answer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and have a great Sunday.